What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another review for Monday Night Raw. This one is from February 19th, 1996. This is the night after In Your House, and 2 weeks since the last episode of Raw. The pay per view was okay. Again, though, not the best, and matches just drag out and come off as boring. If they cut them down by 2 to 5 minutes, I think that would help them feel like better matches because everything would be more condensed and high paced. But I think that might just be my eyes from the future talking, since that's basically how matches are today, fast pace and spot after spot after spot. My favorite match of the show on In Your House was Shawn Michaels versus Owen Hart, but that was also still a slow paced match. There were like 5 wrestles in that thing. And for an episode of Raw, I understand, but on pay per view, come on now, we don't need that many wrestles. And then the main event had Undertaker interfere to cost Diesel the WWF title by coming from under the ring and pulling him under to allow Brett to escape the cage first. So basically, everything that you saw in the match led up to nothing because it led to that interference. Like, if you're thinking about it, why wouldn't Undertaker, if he's gonna cost him, why not cost him as soon as the bell rings? And it just doesn't make any sense. But why do they have to sit through a 15, 20-minute match just to get to that interference at the end? I mean, we'll talk about it more as we keep on going if it matters, but the first match of the show is Racer Ramon versus Goldust. We had a great open to this Raw, by the way. Sunny is a bright spot on these shows every single week, as long as she's gonna keep appearing like that. Racer, by the way, beat the kid on the pay per view in the Crybaby match. It was actually a fun match. They could have just had Racer do the diaper and bottle thing to the kid without making it a stipulation, but it wasn't too insulting to watch. And the kid actually ended up crying, which was a funny touch. Again, that match you can do with or without, but the whole thing, it was just, fine for what it was, even though it was like a weird stipulation. The match here on Raw was for the Intercontinental title as well. Marlena accompanied Goldust to ringside, and she blew some smoke in Racer's face before the match. It is the 90s, so women abuse in any sort is still allowed. Racer slaps a cigar out of her hand and gets the upper hand on Goldust. Later on, after Goldust had Racer in a sleeper hold, Racer sends Goldust to the outside with a fallaway slam, and then hits the back suplex from the ropes. Goldust rolls out of the ring and goes to the back with Marlena to get counted out and retains the title. The bad guy gets on the mic after and says that he doesn't want the belt, he wants his ass. Hey, yo, bro. That doesn't sound like machismo to me. He brings up Roddy Piper and brings up that Piper has 6 kids and Racer loves the kids. Hold up there. What is he trying to say with this promo? Racer says that he doesn't want kids watching guys like Goldust on TV. He asked Piper to make a rematch with Goldust. Not sure there's going to be a stipulation added to it, but Racer didn't ask for anything special, so we'll see if the president, Roddy Piper, gives this to him. Piper, by the way, reinstated Vader last night at the pay per view and made a match between him and Yokozuna at WrestleMania. Yokozuna, by the way, he cut a promo before his match with the Bulldog, and I was flabbergasted, to say the least, by what I heard. Perfect English, great intensity, and 100% believable just because of how big he is. What the hell was Vince McMahon thinking by not allowing this man to cut promos for the last 3 years? And not only that, Yokozuna can actually move in the ring. He was moving around pretty good in that match with Davey Boy, and I was just like, if we could have had this Yokozuna for the last 3 years, it could have been a better overall product. I couldn't believe it. And then they recap the show from last night, and they bring up Yokozuna, which transitions into Vader coming out. He interrupts a match that was supposed to happen between Aldo Montoya and the heart of professional wrestling, Barry Horowitz. And notice how Vader has gone after Gorilla Monsoon, Yokozuna, and Barry Horowitz. Incredible group of wrestlers to go after if you want to make a name for yourself. However, the one thing I didn't like was that Barry continues to get the short end of the stick. He had recovered from all the injuries that he's been battling all last year, only to have Vader come out and take him out yet again. And we all know Vader was not the safest guy to take offense from, so Barry suffered some head trauma from the punches that Vader was landing. Then they show a video package for the Ultimate Warrior. No word of this at last night's pay per view. This was news to me that Warrior is making a return to the WWF. Haven't seen that guy since 1992, I want to say SummerSlam, somewhere around there. But we'll keep going back to that, I'm pretty sure, on the road to WrestleMania. After another sunny vignette, we have Marty Jannetty versus the Ringmaster. On commentary, we hear Vince refer to Austin as being stone cold. So I wonder if the story is actually true that Austin says is that his wife was the one that came up with that name, or if Vince was already thinking of that name, or if they had already talked about it. His wife gave him the idea, and then, from this episode on, they were going to go ahead and call him that. Austin gives Marty the stun gun, and then he puts him in the STF to slow the match down. Marty eventually tries to get back in it with some quick offense, but the Ringmaster puts him in the $1 Million Dream submission to get the win. as Steve Austin continues his winning streak on Raw. Then, the first time we get the name for the new guy coming soon, Mankind, as we see another creepy vignette with him sitting in a dungeon. And then after that, we have the match with Undertaker and Tatanka, who's making a return to Raw. He was in the Royal Rumble match, but I thought that he was actually gone from the WWF completely, but I guess not. Maybe he was just injured because it was a couple months since we last seen Tatanka. Before the match even gets 2 minutes deep, Diesel comes out with an axe and takes a cameraman with him to the back. We see Diesel destroying a casket backstage, which is supposedly to send a message to The Undertaker, which I wouldn't see why he would care, but then I remembered, and Jerry says it on commentary, we are to believe that this is Undertaker's house, the casket that is. And I guess Paul Bearer is the one that transports him from building to building in that casket. The match is still going on though, and Taker gets to win after a tombstone. The $1 Million Man has to be furious about all his investments turning into duds. Tatanka, Bigelow, the Kid, all basically worth as much as NFTs at this point. Undertaker then looks at the big screen and sees what Diesel is doing to his house, and we see Taker walk to the back with Paul Bearer. Jerry Lawler says that he's supposedly going to go back there and see what he can find out, but we don't really see Jerry do much. Next up, we have a CNN Larry King parody. Billionaire Ted is his guest. I don't really know how to review these. You gotta watch them for yourself. Huckster, Nacho Man, and his wife, I guess, call in. Ted Turner's wife. And Larry asks Ted about him lying to the stockholders about how much money WCW is losing, and if he's paying Hogan with the assets from his other companies. But Billionaire Ted starts to get choked up and can't answer the questions. Funny at the time, probably, but this ain't as funny as the original sketches where it was just Huckster and Nacho Man being silly old men, with Scheme Gene trying to con you to call his hotline. At this point, it really just is a personal hit from Vince to Ted for trying to put the WWF out of business by stealing and trying to take away his top WWF stars from the 80s. Because when you think about it, if Ted wasn't in the wrestling business, him and Vince would probably be the best of friends. But anyways, we see Taker backstage looking at the damage done to his home. I hope he has Progressive as his insurance. If they have a hearse and a casket, they could have bundled home and auto together. Now Diesel has made this feud personal with what he's done. Only way to settle this now is how most will solve an issue with a wrestling match. That's how the show ends. So we had a show where most segments had a purpose. Again, matches just being a means to get us to furthering a feud is impacting the quality of matches, but at least they're not jobber matches in the fact that at least we get some back and forth in those matches to kind of make it worthwhile. But even with the quality of matches that we've been getting, I'm still going to give this one a good grade. The presence of Sunny doing what she's doing, always going to be a good thing for me. Undertaker and Diesel continue their feud. Vader returns to Raw. Racer and Goldust set to be coming to a conclusion. Vignettes for an old star returning for the Warrior, and a vignette for a future star in Mankind. This show here had multiple segments worth the time, so yeah, it's going to get a good grade. There are some shows like this that won't have a good match, but also do a good job at building other feuds, and I'll give those a bad grade. So I guess it just depends on the mood that I'm in. So if you want, you can call me out on it. But yeah, for this show, even though there were no good matches, everything else had its place. So with that being said, I'm out. Catch you guys on the next one.